Good morning, everyone. This is Gary with CEO Juice. Got Jon Balter here. You still there, Jon?
I am still here.
So this is a repeat of a webinar we did a few weeks ago. Jon was feeling like a rock star then because we had about 200 people, and so far we have a much smaller crowd today. We have quite a few people who haven't shown up yet. Anything you wanted to cover while we give people another moment or two, Jon?
You know, the big thing to remember about this process is that it doesn't have to change what you're already doing today. You know, a lot of people's fear is, you know, how is this going to work with Salesforce? How is this going to work with Compass? How is this going to work with DQM? You know, and the big thing to remember is that it doesn't have to interfere with how your paperwork flows before it gets into the system. It really has to do with things after they are signed and brought into the company to be processed. And really this is on the operations side of things and not necessarily the sales side. But what it really does is it opens up and makes it more transparent to the salespeople what's going on your operations. You know, when is delivery being done? When is the equipment ready? When are all these different steps occurring? So, I mean, it is possible that you can maintain a lot of the current workflow that you have today without interfering with your paperwork or your leasing structures and all that kind of stuff. This is really focusing on mainly not proposing paperwork, not giving it to a customer, but how to handle it once the deal is signed to the delivery so that the sales rep, the sales manager, the network person, the trainer, the installer, the delivery driver, all these different people, how they can work in the system and track all that information and know what's going on with the order throughout the entire process. Nothing's more important than accomplishing that goal in a dealership. You know, those are the first moments that you get to make. Narrow down, tighten down, the better you're going to perform for those customers.
So just to remind people, everybody is in muted mode, just so we don't have too much background noise. But if you want to ask a question, just go ahead and type it in the chat window there. If it's a long question, we have a small enough crowd to where we can probably unmute you. I am going to post a couple of links down in that chat window as well. If anybody is having a problem hearing us, or if you can't see Jon's screen right now, if you could just ping us in that chat window, or if you just want to say hi so we know it's all working and we feel like there's people out there, go ahead and do that. I am going to post a write-up on this process so that those of you who kind of want to follow along and look at this while you ask questions is there for you. So you should see that little link.
And the write-up has a lot of pieces in there that are really good for you to take this process and kind of go to the next level with it. You know, this webinar is really great for getting you started, and it has a lot of the different pieces that you need to look at and some ideas that you may not have thought of or that you've thought of and didn't know how to do, or maybe you're already doing some of them and you want to implement others. It's not, you know, all or nothing with this process. You can take different pieces of it, and there's some really big distinctions where you could take just the order fulfillment process piece, or you could take the remote tech delivery piece, or both.
And there's also links to the presentation and some other things at the bottom of that write-up. So, Jon, over to you.
Okay. So I'm going to take you through a whole sales order, how this process works. We developed this process for my company, Seamless Solutions, so that we would stop having to take so much of our time to notify different people of what was going on with the sales order, what stage it was at. It also made it more transparent to everybody in the company that had access to eAutomate or was at the right level to be able to see what's going on with an order at the time. So let's jump right into it. So the first stage of any sale is the sales rep goes out there and, he gets the paperwork signed, and we're all excited, and we give him the big thumbs up, and we give him a hug, and we tell him how much we love him. And usually at most dealerships, this is where the pain starts for a sales rep, because they don't know what's going on after this. It goes into the black box. So we wanted to expose a little bit of that black box for the sales rep. So, the paperwork gets turned over to your order processor. This is not an implication. That's what your order processor looks like. That's just what ours looked like when we took the picture that day. But whatever your current paperwork today is, you just turn that completed paperwork packet into your order processor person so that they can process it. Nothing previous to this step has to change at all. I mean, you can continue to use Compass, you can continue to use DQM, you can continue to use Salesforce, you can continue just to have little pieces of paper and scrap notes, whatever's currently working for you. This process is really not addressing that piece before this. So the order is entered into eAutomate. So the finance department generates a sales order in eAutomate with the following information. So one of the big things is that we have the equipment and accessories in a 1, 1.0, 1.2 parent-child format. So it's set up so that I have one machine and then I have the accessories attached to that machine. That's real important so that when I deliver it, everything is already attached to the machine. Some of the custom properties that we have on ours are transaction in, transaction out, it's connectivity required, and then we use the required date in the sales order to mark whether or not there's actually a specific required date, or if there's no date check, we just assume that's as soon as possible. If we have an item to pick up, then they would note that in the remarks. And any additional items, stairs, after hours, would also be noted in those remarks for us. So all the information from that sales order packet that would be necessary to deliver that piece of equipment is now entered into the sales order in eAutomate, and is now in one central location for everybody to be able to work from and use. So once the order gets put in, the order status is automatically set in eAutomate. This is just the default status that every order goes in as, is open or open back order. It's depending on whether or not the warehouse that you selected has the quantities or not. And CEO Juice will then send out an automated email to the warehouse manager. So this is the way that we now pass the information, the sales order, from the finance or your accounts order entry people to the warehouse manager. That's our warehouse manager. I know he's a good-looking man and everything, and kind of hangs out in the dusty stuff, but he gets that email, and he's able to act on that email right away. So that email looks like this. So it's got the order number for him. It'll tell him who the sales rep is. So if he needs to call a sales rep, he can definitely do that. So there's the sales rep in there. It'll tell him that it's on back order, so this way he can go in there and check to see what's going on. Why is it on back order? It'll tell him the sales order number, the company. This is just what we put in the description field. This is our information that we put into the description field. You can put in anything you want, but just gives some extra information for us. Company that's shipping to. The one thing you got to remember with this process, it is a one sales order to one ship to location. So if I have 20 machines going to the same location, then I have one sales order. If I have 20 machines going to 20 different locations, then I have 20 different sales orders. And we use consolidated billing to pull those together for invoicing purposes. But it has to be a one-to-one relationship, location to sales order. 8.5 will allow us to change that, where we can have multiple ship-tos on the same sales order. So we'll see how that turns out when 8.5 comes out. But for right now, that's where we're at. The sales order message is all the remarks, so that we have all the information that we need. And then down here lists out all the equipment. So depending on what equipment's needed, it'll tell you the quantity. None of them's been invoiced. You got one on back order. Once you attach a PO, it'll actually start showing up in here. So if you use the ILC, or you just manually attach a PO and you attach them together, it'll show up. Really nice information for you. And if you do the PO, the estimated ship date, the estimated arrival dates will also pull over from that information. So the next thing the warehouse manager does is he's got to confirm he's got the order. So, you know, instead of sending an email to somebody, all he does is go in and he changes the order status to warehouse or warehouse back order, you know, the back order being the automatic status. And in this way, the warehouse confirms they received the order, and right away we send an email out to the salesperson or sales manager notifying them that we have received the order in the warehouse and that it's being worked on. So that the sales guy goes, hey, you know, I turned in that order yesterday. Is it being worked on? What's going on? You know, I really got to get paid on this thing because my kid's tooth, you know, needs to come out and I need the extra cash. So you'll see all the alert numbers. I put them onto the presentation. This is 349. The one before this was 348. You can actually set these to any statuses. So if you don't like our terminology, warehouse, or, you know, and you want a different status name, you can use these same alerts for different status names. So it doesn't have to necessarily be these specific ones. These are just the ones that we decided to use for our internal purposes. So this is the email that gets sent out to the sales rep. The sales rep gets all the information. They get the required date. That's going to be the date that we're going to try to deliver it on. You know, all the different pieces that are there. If, you know, it was on back order, they'd have the POs attached. This is open, which tells them that, you know, it's processing and going through the system. So then the warehouse starts to work. I don't know if that's what your warehouse looks like, but that's ours. It's quite large. It's a little big one, yeah. The warehouse starts to get to work. So the first thing the warehouse does is we actually add our supply items to our sales orders because we want to associate those costs to that specific order. You don't necessarily have to do that, and we do it with the 1.1 parent-child relationship format. Back order items are ordered from the vendor and received into the system. All equipment and supplies are available. I'm not going to go into the whole, you know, inventory piece of ordering and attaching POs and all that kind of stuff. I want to keep this strictly onto the sales order process piece. The warehouse manager would issue a pick ticket to the warehouse staff. So he just goes in and prints a pick ticket right from the sales order. They're able to record the serial numbers and turn it back into the warehouse manager. The equipment is staged and ready for processing in the shop with a copy of the pick ticket affixed to the piece of equipment. And the equipment will be built in the system by attaching all the accessories in the sales order record. And then we schedule the shop by writing it on the job on the whiteboard. That's our old process. We actually now have it in eAutomate, but that was the old process. So you can mix old with new. It doesn't have to be one way or another. And then what we do is we change the status to scheduled. And this tells us that we have all the equipment, so we're ready to start scheduling this product. The scheduled estimated delivery date will be put on there. We use schedule really to tell the sales rep we have all the equipment. We're guessing it's going to be delivered around this time. The actual delivery date will be set when it's changed to ready. CO Juice will email the sales rep, hey, not only is your order into the warehouse, but guess what? It's now being worked on. And so they like to know that it's being worked on, and they'll have an estimated delivery date. So here's the email that gets sent to them. It's scheduled. They'll have a, you know, the required date will be put in there, so they have all that information. You know, all the notes still keep coming through. They'll know all the pieces of equipment. You know, one of the nice things about repeating this section down here that we found was once in a while, just by luck, a sales manager or a salesperson actually looks and goes, well, wait. I didn't want a fax board on, you know, this machine, or, you know, I didn't want memory or whatever it was, and then they can make those changes before the equipment is run up or delivered, or, you know, and we're having to deal with it on the back end. We see a lot with different accessories, really. We see it a lot with, like, finishers when they order the wrong finisher, or they ordered a saddle stitch and they didn't want a saddle stitch, so it's a lot easier to correct that, or they wanted a hole punch and there is no hole punch on the order. So the sales reps, you know, have become a little more in tune, which is nice. It saved us some oopses out in the field and made us look better in front of the customer. So when the equipment is ready for delivery by the shop, we have a checklist that we fill out. The equipment checklist is returned to the production control with a copy of the pick ticket. The equipment is scheduled for delivery, training and IT. is applied in the dispatch console. So at this point, we not only have the sales order, but we actually go into the dispatch console and we create a service call for delivery, and then we copy that service call for IT install, and then we copy that service call for training, so that we end up with 3 service calls, so that all 3 people that are involved in it, the delivery driver, the trainer, and the IT person, all know when this piece of equipment is going to be delivered, what's the address, who the contact is, and all the information is in there. An email will be generated to the salesperson and training department. We assign a delivery driver and tech call type and priority. We confirm the equipment address matches the delivery address. We change if necessary. And we verify the contact information is the same as the sales order. So we're checking all this stuff along the way. And we schedule the due-by date and time for the delivery driver and tech, and enter for the trainer and place it on training hold. So we keep it on hold for the trainer, but we schedule it for the other 2 people. Trainers can sometimes follow up the next day depending on the customer's needs. So then we change the due-by date in the sales order to reflect the actual delivery date, and this is about as close as we get to an estimate for that delivery date. The real problem with that field is there's no time in that field, so we add in the remarks a date and time section so that the salesperson knows about what time it's going to be delivered, so if they want to meet the order out there. We change the sales order to ready. CEO Juice will send out an automated email again. Notice how the word automated in there? We're not having to email the sales rep or call the sales rep and tell them what's going on. All these emails are getting sent out automated.
So just a note that some people had asked for a copy of John's checklist last time, and it's attached on that first link we posted.
Yeah, and our checklists are what we call our pre-flight checklists, so they're customized for the manufacturer. We use it strictly by so we have one for Lexmark and one for Sav and Rico. So we want to change certain settings to make sure that the machines all leave with kind of a standard thing. So you can see that delivery date is actually in the notes, and they get that delivery date, and this will be the date that it's delivered. That's as accurate as we possibly can become, because at this point we know the equipment is ready, it's run up, it's out of the shop, we have it all, it's all ready to be delivered, it's wrapped and ready, there's no issues. So at this point it's all about taking it to the customer and having it on site, which is really just scheduling. And at this point we're pretty good at scheduling, and hopefully it makes it a little easier that we know everything that's going to go out that day. So we kind of have a good estimate of when we're going to deliver stuff. So the delivery stage, and I'm going to go through this piece by piece. When the item is ready for delivery, we ship it in eAutomate. The one thing to note is that the ship changes it to ship or already shipped. It's automatically in eAutomate. This causes all the equipment to be moved to an unavailable bin called shipped, and removes the need to put it in a sales pending bin. I don't know how long you guys have been on eAutomate. We've been on for a long time, and one of the old practices was you had a sales pending warehouse, and then for every customer delivery you would create a sales pending bin and move that equipment in there so that it would be allocated and you would know what's going out where. Because of using the ship process, we no longer have that. The other thing to note here is that no email will go out at this time. This is only a systematic ship. It doesn't mean the equipment has actually left the warehouse. It's merely to allocate the equipment in the system so that nobody else uses it at this point, and that it's completely allocated and shipped and unavailable. And I have a picture of what, so if you have equipment that's shipped, you'll see it all. One of the nice things about it is it does tell you that it's shipped, and it tells you the sales order. So here's the sales order. If you can actually see my cursor there, I'll highlight one. So there's the sales order right there. It also shows you the meter reading if you scoot over of what's going on. So you can see I have 11 pieces of equipment shipped, and I still have 11 pieces in my main warehouse that I can use. But it gives me that information right at the availability screen to know that piece of equipment is shipped, what sales order it's from. And if I right-click on it, I can actually go right to the sales order. I can also click over here and see the sales orders that it's going for. So it's real nice to keep all that information, once again, keeping it all in eAutomate instead of having multiple pieces of information spread out across spreadsheets and other things like that. So here's our stage 2. So once it's shipped, so we want everything shipped so that we don't use it once it's ready for delivery. We create a service call for delivery, and this is what I was talking about before, where we're now going to use the service module as our delivery module. We make sure to have an install or delivery call type. We schedule the call for the day and the time of the delivery, and each driver will need to be set up as a technician and requires a remote tech login and license. Remote tech works like this with licensing. Once I have logged into remote tech, my license is locked for 24 hours. Even if I log out, nobody else can use that license until the next day. So you really do need to get a license either for a truck or a truck driver, whichever is probably least for you. So if you have 2 trucks, maybe you have 2 licenses and call one truck 1 and one truck 2. We like to have it so that each driver has their own, so that I give you a great example. Today I needed to know which delivery driver picked up an item. I was able to go look at the machine. I could see exactly which delivery driver did it, what date, and his remarks. So it was really nice. We print a service call using a custom report, the CU Juice call delivery ticket. It's 425. It's a really great little report that allows you to fill out your equipment delivery forms or your equipment request forms or whatever you call them, your delivery forms, so that you don't have to do it manually. The system will actually now print them for you. And then we check off the appropriate boxes because there are some manual pieces. I'll show you that on the image on the next page. And then CEO Juice will automatically send out an email to the sales rep informing them of the delivery, and there's the alert number for that. So this is what the email that goes to the delivery driver looks like. It'll tell them when the call was created, the target due time, the expected start time, and then we put in, this is when we're planning on installing this for them, so we make it as clear as possible for them. And you'll see that it also has the address and all the information. So if the sales rep wants to call the customer or do anything like that, they can. One of the other nice things about this email, and I kind of cut it off at the top, is that it actually comes from the delivery driver. So if the sales rep needs to tell the delivery driver something, and maybe he's in a meeting or something, he can just reply back to the email, and the delivery driver is going to get that right there on his iPhone. So it makes it real simple for him. Here's what that custom report looks like. This section right here, and I don't know if you can actually see the yellow or not, but this right here is a manual section for right now for us. I know that I talked to Mike a little bit about this a month ago or so, and I think we're going to work on making this so it uses the custom properties to fill that section out. But everything else on this form besides that one little section is filled out automatically for you. So this is our DNA stuff down here, and we have one for equipment pickups and one for deliveries. All the leasing companies seem to like this verbiage. It's verbiage we've been using for a long time, and they accept it as delivery and acceptance. The nice thing also is that it pulls over your equipment ID, your model, your serial number. There's no transcription errors. It also pulls over all the attached accessories, both serialized and non-serialized. And I know I can't zoom in on here, but if it was serialized, you'll actually see the serial numbers that come out with it. It'll also have the contact's name and telephone number printed on here, and their hours of operation, which is why that seems silly. It actually is quite important. All right.
So again, just to remind people, that's ID 425. You could just pick that one piece if you wanted to and not change anything else.
Right. If you just wanted that one piece and wanted to use this to print your delivery tickets, you could do that. So here's what happens the day of the delivery. We give the delivery driver a copy of the delivery tickets with the run-up sheets attached. So those prep sheets, we actually keep them with the equipment and the delivery form. We don't keep any paper long-term, so it's all transactional. So once it's signed and returned, we scan it in as one packet and then we destroy it. Delivery drivers use remote tech just like a technician. When they're driving out there, they dispatch on their way out there. This will send the salesperson information saying, hey, delivery driver's on his way. you may want to go out there and meet him. When the delivery driver gets there, he arrives. You can actually have an email sent out when he arrives also. We think it's a little excessive to tell them when they arrive, but you could have it sent to the sales rep and let them know that they've arrived. They deliver the equipment. They note the meter reading on the delivery ticket, attach any supporting documents to the back of the packet. Meter readings must be written on the delivery ticket. The customer signs the delivery and acceptance or equipment release depending on the work being performed. Driver makes a copy of the delivery ticket. If you're not delivering a photocopier, I guess make a copy before you leave the office. Hopefully we all have equipment that works when it gets there. But if not, might be something to look at. So the delivery driver uses remote tech to close the delivery. And because meter readings are required, they have to enter a meter reading. So we now have a start meter reading for that service contract. CO Juice will automatically send out an email to the salesperson informing them that the delivery has been complete. So this gives them the information that, hey, it's now done. If I didn't go out there when it was being delivered, right, but if I didn't do it here when they were going out there, at least I know maybe I ought to pick up the phone and just make sure everything went okay. So we really like that. It gives them the ability to know what's going on at all times during this whole process. So they'll get this email. It'll tell them, when the call was created again. It'll tell them all the information, dispatched, arrived, departed, any notes. So on this one, he put that he picked up a small fax machine, but it could be customer was very happy and loves the machine, or customer is really upset that you sold them such a small machine. Any notes that get put in there, the sales rep will know right away what's going on so that they can pick up the phone and call and take care of the customer. It'll also tell them which delivery driver delivered it, so they know exactly who delivered the product. That's our delivery trucks. That's what they look like before we started this process. So we got a little bit better than that. So training and networking will also generate emails. They look exactly like the delivery ones. The only difference is, now they say training instead of, train and help, do speed sailing, what he was talking about there. But, they have all this information right away that the training has been completed and they're ready to move on to their next task. So we're going to finish the process. When possible, the delivery driver faxes it back. We actually discontinued this, but our finance people wanted the paperwork right away, and they asked us to fax it back, but we'll kind of stop using this. Is everybody still there? Because I got a notice here.
No, we're still there.
Okay. Okay. I was
Just not a whole lot of questions today. Sorry, John.
Okay.
Not the same crowd you had last time.
Yeah, a little smaller, but I'm sure there'll be some questions at the end. So the warehouse manager, the paperwork's returned and all the supporting documents to the warehouse manager. Warehouse manager reviews it for accuracy. And he makes this final change, which is that the sales order is delivered. And CO Juice will send out an email notifying the delivery group or whoever you want that the order is now completed. We notify the sales manager, the sales rep, and our finance people. We scan the documents into Trino. Really need to fix that error. But we scan it into our document management system, Trino. There, it's now fixed. See tree in the no. It's real clever. But it's a really good document management system. So we scan it into our document management system, and we return all the original documents to the order processing department for them to send off to the leasing company or whatever they need to do with them. The delivery is complete and the paperwork is turned in. This is the last piece that the sales rep gets from the process. So they know it's delivered, it's shipped, everything's great. They know what equipment was done. They know that now they can go jump up and down and they're going to get paid and they're very happy people, or that at least it's delivered and it can start getting funded and moving through the rest of the process. One of the new features that the system allowed us to do was allowed us to track through Alert 34, which just tracks, production of technicians. It allowed us to track how many deliveries we were doing with each delivery driver each month. So like this one did 32 and this one only did 13. It kind of helps us figure out what we were doing and all that kind of stuff. So really kind of neat, and, it tells you your number of, gross calls per day, and kind of neat to see, how many deliveries are you doing per day, and actually having real statistics instead of having to dig through a whole bunch of mounds of paperwork. And I think that's it. So do we have any questions?
Sad to say, I think maybe we got one. I think maybe your explanations are just getting so good that there are no room for questions. So with multiple calls for same day for delivery, training, etc., how did you handle the meter read issue for same meters?
If you're on version, and I can't remember what version, it stopped having that sanity issue problem with same-day meter reading entries, but we don't seem to have that problem anymore. I'm not sure if it was something that we changed or it was a fix that got put in. But as long as they're consecutive, in other words, they're closed and invoiced, that you shouldn't have that problem, or our staff is forcing it. I'd have to look, to be honest with you. I haven't heard any complaints about that at this point.
I've got Leanne asking for a copy of the presentation. It's in that first link. So over in the go-to meeting, I posted 2 links, and the first link in the chat window was basically an overview of this whole process, but it also included links to the presentation, links to the sample of the DNA PDF and some of the other stuff. And then I posted a second link above that, which was just how you could go wild with custom properties and essentially track everything on everything needed for the equipment sales order, deal splits, commissions, who was the sales rep's manager at that time. You can go wild on that. So there's 2 links. The first one, equipment sales order process, it finishes with, had everything in there. So,
and I don't mind sharing I'll drop my email address in here if you have questions that you need followed up on down the road. I mean, feel free to email me.
Elena is asking how do you get the return equipment into the DNA PDF? That's interesting.
So all our return equipment is, you know what? It's a great point. I didn't bring that up. All service call pieces have to be one call, one piece of equipment. So for every piece of equipment, there is a separate service call. So if I'm delivering a piece and picking up a piece, there are 2 separate service calls. There's one for the one I'm picking up, and there's one for the one I'm delivering. So they're completely separate. There may be a note in the sales order, but when we put it into the dispatch side of things, we completely separate it. And the reason for that being is you always have to go to your least common denominator, and when we're talking about deliveries, it's always the machine. So mainframe, that's the least common denominator. One machine, one delivery ticket. One machine, one delivery ticket. Why that seems like it's a lot of work, it's really not that much, because you can use copy a lot and you can create calls very quickly. It also helps you know that you're delivering 5 pieces of equipment to one location or you're delivering 1. But it also, one of the features that we didn't even think about originally is now we have a service call, and so when we look at the service history, if we ever pick up that machine and bring it into the shop for and put a loaner out there, we now know what date we picked it up and what date we delivered it exactly, and there's no having to look at other stuff. So you might be wondering, how do we handle equipment that's not in our system? If it's something we're picking up and replacing and upgrading, we already have that piece in our system and we just use that ID number. If we don't have it in there, eAutomate has the ability to do unknown equipment. And unknown equipment is pretty cool because you can just create a, let's see if I have a test company I can use.
Did we lose you, or are you doing some magic in the background?
I was going to do some magic in the background. I'll see if let's see. Okay, so you can add an unknown piece of equipment, and the nice thing about the unknown piece of equipment is you can actually just come in here and type in, I'm not a Canon dealer, so don't yell at me for not knowing Canon.
Oh, for not spelling it right.
Sorry. Here, I'll go pick up an Xbox. How's that? Whatever it is, and then you can just type in the serial number. And you can actually invoice those out and use those for your product. So once you create that call, you can, so we would take this and call and delivery. And then we assign it just to a delivery driver. But that allows us to create that without anything. Without having to create the piece of equipment and go through all that work.
So on that same point, just confirming that it's a separate service call for the pickup machine. So if there's a drop-off and a pickup, it's two separate service calls, right?
That's correct. And if there's 4 pieces of equipment, it's 4 service calls. If it's 4 deliveries and 4 pickups, it's 8 service calls.
Even though they're all happening at the same time on the same truck?
Even though they're happening at the same time on the same truck. The least common denominator, just like in inventory, your least common denominator for a part is usually each. So our least common denominator for our delivery is mainframe. So for every mainframe, there is a service call. And we thought that that was going to be a problem, but it actually seems to resolve a lot of issues for us.
So a question from Donna asking if they could set this up in a test database. So we have a couple of clients who do want test databases, but in order for our alerts to work out of a test database, we have to hook pointer in. There's a lot of work involved. John, do you think, there's really not that much going on that it needs to be tested, do you think? Or?
Well, here's what I would suggest doing, and this is what we followed, was we went into our test database and we worked through the whole process ourselves. So we ignored the emails going out to the sales reps, and we first went through the whole process, and we created orders, and my warehouse manager, Scott Alcorn, went through the whole process. He was diligent. He would go home at night and he would create an order, and he'd follow the order all the way through the whole process and make POs. So we did that whole piece of it. And then what we did was we said, okay, let's implement that piece. And then we had CEO Juice send just the emails to Scott or myself so that we could see all the emails that were coming through. And that's how we tested the email piece. And once we were comfortable with all of that, that's when we rolled it out and checked it off to the sales reps to get it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that answers it. So we can come back to this separately if somebody has specific issues about testing it, but we're happy to help with that. So got a few other questions here. So jumping back to the separate service call for pickup machine. So I think we're clear on that it's one extra call regardless if they're all on the same truck. That question just coming up a lot. So
yeah.
Why? I guess the question is it just for tracking purposes, or why are you doing that?
You don't have to necessarily do that if you want to put it in remarks or something like that, but we wanted it to have that look and feel of that delivery ticket. Let's see if I can. We wanted everything to have this look. So we didn't if you can look at this form already, there's enough already on this form that it would be difficult to put a pickup of equipment, and not to mention service calls are designed so that they don't have multiple equipment on them. Now, you can have one work order and multiple, service calls, and that works too. So you can have one work order and then multiple service calls, but it would be, each one is still an individual service call. I hope that explains that.
I think so. And if you have questions, you can come back to it. So there's a question whether it's the service call that triggers the alert or the sales order type, and it's both, right?
It's both. So we have two processes going on. So there's a lot of alerts that have to go around. There's only one real alert that goes around the service call itself, and that's this. Is that the right one? I'll make sure I get the right alert. There's only one alert that goes around the service calls, and that's this 266. And you just tell it when you set up the service call what call types you want to do, and I think they're all delivery and install call types. And then you tell it who, what statuses do you want it when it's open? Do you want it when it's scheduled? Do you want it when it's dispatched? Do you want it when it's arrived? Do you want it when it's arrived? So that's one big alert, where on the sales order side, it's a whole bunch of little alerts, and they are whenever the order status type changes. So they start at, and I'm going to say 2. If I can remember correctly, let me take a look. But I want to say that they start at like 348.
They're listed on that separate on that write-up as well. So
yeah, I think they start at 348 and work their way all the way through. And there's a whole bunch of them. They're the same alert. You put in a different status for each alert. So I just gave you the ones that I used to create this whole process.
So Carolyn had a good idea here, and just kind of, I'm jumping all over the shop here, but Elena had asked for you to cover consolidated billing. That seems to come up every time, so we can do that at the end if we have time. But Carolyn had suggested that when the machine gets picked up, it would be good to notify the contracts admin people. How often do you forget to terminate a contract when a machine is picked up?
That's not a bad idea. So what we would do is we would come into this alert, this last delivered alert, and we'd probably put the contract person's information in there. Or we might come up with a separate alert.
Just for that, yeah.
Just for that triggers off of pickups. Maybe there's a call type for pickups that we have to trigger off of. One of the other things that we didn't talk about is that we just started, and I don't think this presentation has that in there, but we started to use a survey. So when we have a call type that we use, and that call type, I can get a piece of equipment in here. There's a call type that we use now called new install. And so you can even see that it says new install with survey. So when this call type gets closed, we actually send the customer their install survey, which is really nice. So they get that piece. So they know that, hey, this piece of equipment is there and installed.
Do you use internal call type ranges versus field call type ranges?
And I'm not sure exactly what we're talking about there.
I think looking at those call types, but they're all the same list of call types.
We have very few call types. Most of our call types are pretty basic. We don't use call type necessarily to distinguish problems, and I think that's the main thing. We have corrective maintenance, you know, customer error call types, and we have courtesy call types, and then, you know, networks and network installs and office calls and things like that. We do have a few call types for specific customers because we do some depot work. But most of our stuff is really just to distinguish just general stuff. You know, either we're going out there to, you know, fix a machine, or we're going out there for some reason, shape, or form. You know, we have an issue call type. This is where we're going out to inspect a machine for an issue. You know, we're moving a machine, network install, network issue. You know, none of them like are, I've seen people use call type in a different way, which is like, this machine is broken because it has a paper jam. I don't want to know that in that piece. We use that strictly as a call type just to say that it's, you know, it's corrective maintenance. That would just be corrective maintenance, and let the technician determine what's going on out there. So we use call type maybe different than other people do. I hope that answers the question.
All right. So do you want to cover consolidated billing real quick? You got time?
I really don't have a good presentation for consolidated billing. That's my big issue with it. Let's see if I do. Hold on. Let me give me one.
Talk
second.
amongst yourselves, that sort of thing.
I'll give you guys a topic. You know, the Middle East, it's neither in the middle nor in the east.
So for the CEO, I think everybody on here is a CEO Juice customer. So we're happy to help with this. Just email help@ceojuice.com and say, hey, I want to get this piece going.
So this is what I'm referring to as the big document. This is that sales order process. So this is that same presentation, but instead now it's a document. It's got some, you know, why we did this, what was our goals, you know, what was the process and the thought pattern behind it. So if you want to talk to some people about it, when we send out emails, who they go to, you know, delivery tickets, and then we go through the whole process. This is actually our internal process, and we've exposed it to the world, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's see. But consolidated billing. Okay, so when I have multiple locations, so currently eAutomate only has a single ship-to location on a sales order. It's important.
Right, we're still seeing the finish the process screen, John. I don't know if you changed that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How about now?
Just me. Maybe it's just me seeing it, but I'm just seeing finish the process. Maybe stop showing your screen and show it again.
Let's do this.
Okay, there we go. We're good now.
Okay, so just to go through that real quick, here's this document again. It's got purpose. It's got goals. You know, you can sit down with people and talk about it. You know, here's where we kind of sketched out, you know, who gets what emails. You know, feel free to, you know, this document's great. It has the alert numbers. You know, it's a little more, you know, we went into a whole bunch of detail here on processing. Like I guess maybe we could share this stuff too, which is our pick ticket process and our sales order process. Those links don't work for you guys, sorry. But what's really important on this, and this is what we wanted to get into, is the issue of, you know, what do we do when we have multiple locations? You know, we want to bill it all together. We don't want to bill it separately. So this is why eAutomate kind of came up with consolidated billing, and they're going to make that a little easier with 8.5. I mean, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be great, and we may not need this anymore. But for right now, this is a great solution. So the setup is you go underneath the billing tab, and you have to mark the customer as using consolidated billing. Once you do that, there's these two little dots right here, and once, I don't know if you guys are seeing my pen, right? You can see my writing, these two little dots.
Yes, yeah, we can see all that.
Okay. So once you click on those two little dots, you'll get this this next screen right here, which will or three little dots, sorry. You'll get this next screen that tells you when do you want to consolidate the billing? So you can always set the date the day before, kind of makes it so it won't get missed, and then you can automate just sales orders to do consolidated billing, and then you can check off how frequently you do it. So, since we're going to do a process order right now, we can just set it to daily, and then we don't have to worry about it. If you're already doing it for a customer, you might have an issue with this, but it shouldn't cause you too many problems.
John, quick question. Did you already share this document or not? I can't remember.
Yeah, this is on the original document, so
it should be on that same post.
it should be on that same post, yeah. If it's not, let me know, and I can send you this one. But yeah, this was good stuff. I hope it's on there.
I'm just checking.
Okay. So after Consolidated is turned on for the customer, you're ready to go. So to use it, the difference is you'll have this, when you go into the sales order, billing. So you're going to add the Consolidated to the billing queue. So one thing you're going to notice is you can't print it at that point. It's going to gray out the printing because now it's saying you're going to consolidate this. You don't want to print the invoice. You just want to consolidate it together. So once you do that, and you don't have to consolidate every invoice. So if you've got a customer who has big orders and small orders, you can consolidate some and not consolidate others. So you just take that checkbox off, and it works like a regular sales order. Put that checkbox in. It does tell you in the little yellow box, hey, this customer is to automatically consolidate. Once you do that, you go to, you'll see in the sales, oh, this is a good thing to point out. In the sales invoice, you'll see a consolidated column, and it'll say, yes, this is a consolidated invoice. All GL entries are made at the time of fulfillment. So that's an important factor. Even though I'm consolidating the invoice and I haven't printed the invoice yet, all my GL entries stay exactly the same way they were, even if it wasn't consolidated. So it's going to post all my things to my GLs without change there. So that's real nice. It kind of eliminates any mistakes that could happen. The next thing I want to do is I want to go create that consolidated invoice. So I go to accounting, accounts receivable, consolidated billing. And I'm sorry I got this on 2 pages, but you're going to click on New, and you're going to select the customer. You can enter a PO and a description. If the customer doesn't have a PO, we use the date and the initials from the sales rep, just so that we have something in there for the description. So this is what that screen will look like. So you click New, and then you select the customer. It's going to show you all the invoices that need to be consolidated together. You can pick and choose and say, okay, the top one and the bottom one are going to go on one invoice, and the middle ones are going to go together. Doesn't matter. You can put their PO number in there. Like I said, we're using the date and then the sales rep's name. And then you can put a description in, the date that you want to invoice it on, the due time, and when you return to the consolidated billing list, you can reprint it if you didn't check off this print a billing. You can print it off here. You'll see the list of the invoices, and you can print it off here. One of the nice features of this is when you do consolidated billing, if you haven't done it before, if I go in to pay one of those invoices, it pulls up all the invoices. So I can either look underneath my accounts receivable by invoice number, or I can look underneath the billing number, which is this new B number that's been created. So both numbers are visible in the accounts receivable section.
So John, we don't have the document, but we have the majority of the information you put into that one post for us. If anybody is looking for additional information, just go ahead and email help@ceojuice.com, and we'll get to them.
So I see a question here. Most customers use outside leasing companies. This would be set up the leasing company number. Yeah, absolutely. You would set this up, the consolidated billing, underneath the leasing company. So you would consolidate it for the leasing company, not for the ship-to location. So you don't have this piece in the document?
I have, most of it's in there, but if there's like one slide, I think, or one screenshot that's missing, but
I can send it to you again if you want.
yeah, it's getting a little fragmented if I start putting it in too many places. But
Gotcha.
any other questions? We're running out of questions, which is a good thing. I want to thank John for taking the time to do this. This is the second time, so he's not only invested 2 hours in sharing information he didn't have to, but all of the prep work as well. So thank you, John. It is much appreciated.
No problem. I'm hoping that these practices will get adopted and maybe grown upon and improved, and I can get some new ideas from other people. So the idea of sending it to our installing piece is really nice. I like that. So I think we might go in and find a place to stick that in. So I appreciate the input.
Okay, so again, unless there's any more questions, we'll finish up here in a moment. Just a reminder to email help@ceojuice.com, or you can get hold of me, Gary, at ceojuice.com. Or if you have any questions, you can always set up a meeting, and we'll kind of walk you through one-on-one how to get your own system going. So I think we're good, John.
Okay.
Thank you a bunch again for doing this.
Anytime.
Donna's asking if we have access to the paperwork you were showing, and yes, Donna, in that link I sent, which you should have got, I'm sending it again right now. And if you don't, then just email us and we'll help you get it going. So everybody good? I think so. Hey, thanks a bunch, John.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Bye now.